Who am I? Who are we? Why are we here? These are some of the most important questions that we can ask ourselves. The collective hunger of humanity to know and to understand the mystery of our destiny, the wonder of our existence. The search for identity and meaning has always been the paramount quest upon which mankind must embark. To fulfill the deepest longing of our souls to know and to understand that we belong somewhere, that our existence has meaning, that our lives have purpose. While these profound yet poignant questions reverberate across the entirety of human existence, the enemy of our souls has sought to exploit our journey since its inception by offering substitute answers and counterfeit truth. Who am I? He says you are broken. Who are we? Enemies. He calls us enemies. Why are we here? There really is no meaning to it at all. He whispers logical lies that give us easy answers, lies veiled just enough to allure us with their simplicity and ease. Is this not the way the enemy has always gone about his business? The ancient writer tells us there is nothing new under the sun. In the beginning of time, with the woman in the garden, the enemy lured her with the promise of purpose and identity. You will be like God. In the heat of the desert, as Abram and Sarah longed for a child, the enemy lured them with the promise of control and manipulation. You can do this on your own. In the cool of the evening, as David saw a woman bathing on the roof, the enemy lured him with the promise of momentary pleasure. Take what you want. But time and again, the seductive promises of the enemy fail to satisfy the great questions of our souls and leave us feeling more lost, more broken, and more empty than ever before. With every new generation, the same questions remain. The echoed longing of every poet, artist, philosopher, and scholar throughout the years of human history is the same: to know and to understand. Who am I? Who are we? Why are we here? And in the hurry and intensity and busy of our frantic lives in pursuit of meaning, we so often miss that still, small whisper that beckons to us sweetly from the secret place. Who am I? You are mine. Who are we? Beloved, treasured. Why are we here? For my glory. Because of the finished work of Christ on the cross, we have the assurance of our place and our position in the family of God. We have been given the sacred assignment of carrying out His purposes on earth. They say knowledge is power, and if that is true, then we have the most powerful knowledge, irrefutable, indisputable assurance of our identity and our purpose in the world. I know who I am. I am a child of God. I know who we are. We are Christ's ambassadors, and I know why we're here. We're here to usher in the kingdom of heaven. You are not here by mistake. Your life is not an accident. The breath in your lungs is evidence of your purpose. You are living proof that there is meaning. So with that in mind, we have a job to do. We have a city to serve, and we have a kingdom to build. It just takes a little vision. Can you see it?
Well, that was absolutely incredible. Sydney Franklin, that was awesome. Can we give her one more round of applause? We appreciate you sharing that. And hey, a couple things. First off, my name is Brandon. If we haven't met before, I haven't been up here yet. And if you're brand new to Union City Church, so glad you're here. And you guys are our honored guests today. And so one more time, can we put our hands together for anybody that's their first time here with us at Union City? You might have walked in feeling like a stranger, but our goal is that you would leave feeling like you have family. And that's what we have a goal set for every single week here at our church. Hey, so anyway, this is Vision Sunday. And again, if you're newer here, what a cool time to be at a church to get a little bit of a feel for who we are and what we're about. And so I want to start by talking a little bit about a TV show. Anybody like avid TV watchers in the place? Anybody binge watch some TV shows? Wave at me if you're a binge watching TV person. Okay, these are the people that are not reading their Bible enough. No, I'm kidding. They're like, I'm not coming back here. It's a joke, everybody. Relax. We know you read your Bibles so much. Anyway, a show that I have just been hooked on lately, absolutely hooked on, is a show called Welcome to Wrexham. And has anybody seen Welcome to Wrexham? Yeah, I'm alone. There's two of us. That's great. We'll watch it together. So this show's awesome. This show has Rob McElhenney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, as well as Ryan Reynolds, who's in everything. And these two guys, it's not a fictional show. Okay, this is a nonfiction. They're doing this in real life as themselves. And what they've done is they have, combined their income and their assets, and they bought a football club, soccer as we call it, but I'm going to respect the game enough to call it football. They bought a football club, a Welsh football club called Wrexham AFC, and this show's fascinating. The reason I love it is because it's such a compelling story. Wrexham AFC was a club that came about in the mid-1800s, and today they play in one of the oldest operated stadiums that's like still in operation or just around the world. This was a franchise that at one point was at the top of the Premier League division. And since then, about 30 years ago, they were bought out by some pretty terrible people that were very self-interested. And this club dropped all the way to the 5th division there in Wrexham. And that's like one division above, like not professional. So you're just playing for fun at that point, right? And so these two guys are trying to bring life back into this football club. And what I love in watching this show is the city's so excited. People have just like lost their minds, and they are packing out a 10,000 person arena in this little town called Wrexham to come and watch a team that's not very good. And that's kind of mind-blowing. And as I'm watching this show, a lot of you, maybe you watch TV and you think like, well, hey, I'm just enjoying a show. As a pastor, I watch TV shows, and I start thinking, hey, you know what? This will preach. This will preach a little bit. Because what we're seeing are two people that came in, put their money together, their time, their energy, passion, and put some vision behind this. And their vision for a football club has begun to change an entire city. And I just began to think about Vision Sunday and had the thought that I wonder if somebody could do that with a soccer team, how much more could a vision for the church as we come together begin to shape and impact and change a city? We don't want to be a church that just shows up on Sundays. And you might be here thinking, well, that's exactly what I came here to do, Brandon. I came here to show up, to check my church box, and to worship a bit, maybe hear teaching and head home. And that's great if you're here for those reasons, but I just wanted to tell you that we are a church that wants to invite you into so much more than that. We're a church that wants to invite you in to walking out your faith, not just on Sundays, but every single day of the week, and to be a part of something that doesn't just impact your life and our lives, but impacts this entire city. So that's what we're here for. We want to be a church that can change and shape an entire city. We're here. I said this a lot before we ever launched this church, and I believe it today more than ever before, but we believe we are a church that is here to contend for revival and renewal in our time. I believe revival can happen and come to our country. I believe revival is needed in our nation. And the thing that I love about being in D.C. is that what happens in D.C. doesn't stay in D.C. And so if God could begin revival here, we believe that revival could pass and sweep through our entire nation. And I just wonder if this is a church that also believes that. It's a little quiet this morning. And so I wonder if are you guys a church that believes that revival can come to this space and to this place and sweep through our nation? It's going to take all of us. Not the quote-unquote professionals, not the people who get paid for ministry. But so often at this church, I love to remind you that I'm in full-time ministry. This is what I get paid to do, but you're also in full-time ministry. God has called each and every one of us to be ministers of the gospel everywhere we go. Our mission statement here at Union City Church, I'm going to read it real quick, and I apologize for this week. We do not have our side TVs. They're not working for us because they're currently working for Satan. And so normally we have some TVs on the sides, and I think this one's even being crazy. So pray for our, production stuff. It's just, it's been great. But I want to read our mission statement, and if you can't see the screens, I'll be very clear today so that you know exactly where we are. Here's what it says. It says, we are a community of people deeply connected and completely committed to practicing the way of Jesus together for the renewal of the world. And I love this mission statement because it's such a great reminder that we're not just here to gather for church on Sundays, but we're a community of people that are here for the renewal of our world. This is what we're here for. We're on mission together. So what I want to do today is I want to talk a little bit about where we're headed as a church. What is the rest of this year going to look like? What is it going to look like in 2023? We don't know what's coming. We learned this in 2020. Every church preached like 2020 vision. This is our year, and it wasn't. It wasn't anybody's year. So we've learned that we don't know what's coming. So we're going to plan and say, and God willing, this is what we'll do. But also we're going to be ready for whatever this world throws at us. And so we're going to talk about what's coming, what we're planning on doing. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about where we've come from. And I want to celebrate the last year and some change and talk about a couple of things. So what I've called this is 59 weeks by the numbers. We've been a church now in existence for about 59 weeks, and we're always counting. It's kind of weird. And I want to just share with you a little bit of kind of by the numbers what our churches looked like. The first number I wanted to talk about is the number 10,063. 10,063 represents the amount of people who have gathered in this space to worship together over those first 59 weeks. Now, that's incredible. Worth celebrating. Now, I'll be so clear, because I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. That's not 10,000 unique people. That's all of us coming back in. A lot of you are repeat offenders. God bless you. You're back here all the time. And I was thinking this morning, I have been to 58 out of 59 Sundays, and I'm proud of it. And the only one I missed was because I had to take my son to the ER at 3 a.m. And my wife stepped in and preached and crushed it. It was a crazy day. So anyway, the next number is the number 322. 322 is the average attendance of our Sunday morning gatherings since early September, which is absolutely incredible. I think that's something worth celebrating as well. And I'm going to keep pointing back to September because that was the moment that we had our 1-year anniversary service and then started our second service. But I like to talk about this just briefly because when we gather in two separate services, sometimes it's hard to know, what's God doing in the first service? And is God only moving in the second service? And so God is doing so many things. We've been growing, and so many new people have been coming to our church. 120. This number is the average attendance of dinner parties on Wednesday nights, which is awesome. And a quick shameless plug for dinner parties. If you're not in one, there's a dinner party near you. We gather every other Wednesday night all through the D.C. area. We've got quite a few out in Virginia as well. And so you got to go to a dinner party. I'm out in Southeast, represent, and ours has a lot of kids at it. It's crazy, chaotic, but it's great. We love it. The next number is the number 60. And this one, I'm just going to tell you, I want to celebrate like crazy after I say what this is, but 60 represents the number of people who have committed their life to Christ since starting this church, which I think is just incredible. And to God be all of the glory, and that's what it's about. We have to try to remind ourselves that eternity is real, and if we're not focused on eternity and getting people saved, then what in the world are we doing? And so we want to celebrate people coming to Jesus. The next number is 15. We've had 15 baptisms, people who have been publicly baptized here at our church, which is incredible. Those are always such emotional services. I'm like, don't cry this week, and then it happens. The next number is 478. That's the number of guest cards that we've had filled out in 59 weeks, which that's incredible. And something else that I think is really cool that I wanted to talk about is, again, since early September, our average guest card, like the amount of people that are filling out a guest card is 14 a week that are being filled out. And I bring this up because if you're part of our church community and you've been here for a little while, it can get kind of like, you can get just used to sitting in the seat, kind of going through the rhythms. But I want to remind you that every single week, there is somebody that's here for the very first time. And I think it's a great practice before you walk in these doors any week to remind yourself of what you experienced that first Sunday you walked in. And who was it that made you feel welcome? What was it that drew you into this place? And I just imagine, what if our entire community said, hey, I'm going to do what someone else did for me. And I'm going to make somebody feel welcome and embraced. And I'm not just going to say hi, but I'll exchange a phone number, I'll invite them out to lunch, and I'll try to make actual real connection with this person. And I think a church that's doing that is really powerful. The next number is 333, and this is the amount of people who have attended Pathway over the first year of this church, which is absolutely incredible. As I talked about earlier, Pathway is our way to get plugged in and involved. We share the story of our church, our vision, our values, our mission. And then we try to tell you a little bit about how to get plugged in, how to get involved here at our church. The next number is 16,690, and that represents the amount of hours that have been given on Sundays by our serve team here at Union City. That's the equivalent of 695 days of volunteer hours that have been given. And so I know we just clapped a little bit, but could we put our hands together for our serve team? We love everybody, those who got here at 6 a.m., who are serving, who are grinding, and they are doing all of this for you. And many of you guys are involved in these as well. The next couple I'll go through quickly are 17,500. And then that's the amount of views we have on YouTube, which is unbelievable. And then 392,879 is the amount of views we have on Instagram Reels. Now, I bring this up because I'm not trying to say, like, this makes us a cool church. I could not care less about that kind of stuff. If you know me, my wife has to remind me to post things on social media. It's just not my thing. I bring that up because I think it's a good indicator and a reminder that there is a reach that we have that goes beyond just what you experience in this space on Sundays. And people are being formed, and they're growing and being discipled even by what's going out on social media and YouTube. So I think that's incredible. The next number is the number 5, and that is represents, we've done 5 all-church serve days together over the last 59 weeks, and those have been amazing. Mostly on Saturdays. We've had one that we actually gathered on a Sunday morning, and we said, hey, rather than having, church and meeting in this space for church, let's meet out there and be the church outside of these walls. And it was a really incredible day to be the hands and feet of Jesus. I think over 130 people came out to serve in our community, in our city. And then the last one by the numbers is $55,000 plus. And what that represents, and I think this is going to be worth celebrating, is the amount of money that our church has given away in our first 59 weeks as a church, which is absolutely amazing. And so we set out from the beginning to say, hey, we want to be a generous church. And so we want to stick to that value. That's a massive value for us. As we have people come up here, as Katie was up here a moment ago, encouraging us in our giving, we're going to do that every week. And we shamelessly are going to invite you to be a part of what God is doing. But on the other side of that, we want to try to show you as often as we can that the money is not just staying here. The money is also going outside these doors. And so I love to see what we're doing, how we're impacting our community. We've been able to give to organizations like Bread for the City, a local DC organization that do all kinds of incredible things, DC 127, and they work with training and preparing foster families right here in our city. World Help, as the crisis in Ukraine broke out, as Russia invaded, the war began, we were able to give $3,500 in refugee relief to World Help. 100% of that money went to helping people on the ground. And then Humanitarian Action, another incredible organization right here in our city, helping refugees that are showing up almost every single day to Washington, D.C. So that's a little bit of what we have done. And the last thing I want to do is I want to put our hands together one more time. And I know we've been thanking ourselves in a sense and congratulating ourselves. But could we put our hands together for God and give him all of the glory, all of the praise for what we've been able to do and accomplish? I never want us to get to this point where we feel like, all right, this is us. Like, we got this under control. The second a church starts thinking like that, is the second a church, I believe, is in real trouble. So that's a little bit of where we've been. And so what I want to do now is I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about who we're going to be, what we're going to do, and where we're going to go. And then I got a bonus point at the end, but we won't talk about that yet. So the first thing I want to talk about is who we are going to be as a church in 2023. And so we've been praying about this. We have been talking about it and really trying to figure out what would be the best focus for us as a church in this new year that's coming up faster than we realize. And, you know, we have 4 pillars at our church, if you want to put those up on the screen. These 4 pillars are the presence of God, spiritual formation, missional living, and committed community. And so what we're going to be focusing on in 2023 is this phrase, spiritual formation. And I don't know if that seems like a really cool word to you or not, if you're like, what is spiritual formation? But this, I believe, is what God has called us to do as pastors and as the church, is he wants us to not just preach, not just teach and put on programs, but to ensure that his people are being formed every day into the image of Jesus. So this is our phrase and our term for discipleship. I think in a lot of ways, discipleship has lost a little bit of its meaning. And you say discipleship, and suddenly we just start thinking about, you know, meeting for a Bible study on occasion. And yes, that is part of discipleship. Like, how many know getting together to read the Bible with other people is never a bad idea? But discipleship goes so far beyond just that. Discipleship is kind of the holistic Christian approach to simply this, becoming more like Jesus. And that's what we're going to be committed to in 2023, that the people in our church that are already Christians and those who are not saved yet as they come to know Christ, that we will go on a journey together to become more like Christ. I don't know about you, but I can't stand the moments and seasons in my life where my faith feels more like a theory than a reality. And so we want to help bring your faith from theory that lives in your mind to a reality that you see a full expression in your life. The reason that I think this is important is because the world is discipling us, I think, at a disorienting pace. And every single day, there are things that are contributing to us being formed and discipled by the world. It's becoming easier and easier to become more and more conformed into the image of our culture than into the image of Christ. And so as believers even, you might be thinking, well, I'm a Christian, but I am watching Christians, people who say, I follow Jesus, who, because they are not realizing about how much time they're spending in the world and being influenced by it, they look up a year later or 3 years later and realize, I look more like this world than I look like my Savior. So we want to ensure that as we are being inundated, that we are making sure that we are spending time seeking Jesus and drawing close to him. There's 168 hours in a week. I don't know if you know that. I Googled that this morning. 168 hours in a week. And most of us, right, we're sleeping huge portions of this, and most of us, the latest stats say, are spending 30 to 40 hours a week on our phones. Then we're going to work, and we're spending our day, a lot of us in secular jobs, where you may not be working with bad people. That's not at all what I'm saying. But we are in environments that often are not just different than what the Word says, but are often at odds with what the Word says. Those of you who are in college, you're attending a university. I don't know if you've seen this lately, but the universities aren't really pushing people toward Jesus by the droves in our modern society. So we're spending time in these places. And for a lot of people, basically their discipleship can be summed up in the hour and a half that they spend in a space like this on Sundays. So within 168 hours in a week, we're spending an hour and a half in a building like this, and for many people, that's the extent of their discipleship. And can I just say that if we rely on Sunday church alone for our growth and our formation, then we are hopeless in our efforts to counter what culture is trying to conform us into. There's no chance. 168 hours, and I'm spending 1.5 being formed by Jesus. And this is why we're trying to tell you guys it's important what you do in and with your faith on a daily basis. Faith is not a Sunday to Sunday thing. Faith is a day to day thing. And so we can no longer afford to be people who claim to follow Christ, but look and act nothing like him. We got to be believers that look like Christ, that embody the nature of Jesus. You know, I came across a quote before our church even started by a guy named Neil Cole. And this quote wrecked me as I was planning and prepping for the building and the launching of this church. And here's what Neil Cole said. He said, ultimately, each church will be evaluated by only one thing: its disciples. Your church is only as good as her disciples. It does not matter how good your praise, preaching, programs, or property are. If your disciples are passive, needy, consumeristic, and not radically obedient to Christ, your church is not good. And as I'm planning a church, and we're talking about the praise, the preaching, programs, and property, I felt like God stopped me dead in my tracks, and he said, Brandon, none of this will matter if you are not building disciples. This cannot be a church full of people that are here for programs. This has to be a church of people that are here for Jesus Christ. Say, look, I want to become more like him. We are only as good as the disciples. So we have to constantly be renewing our minds, as it says in Romans 12. We have to constantly be refocusing our attention on Jesus. I don't know about you, but I feel like almost every day, the world's pull is so strong that my focus on Jesus, my attention begins to move to other things. And it's like if I'm not intentional every evening or every morning to get my focus back on Jesus, it's really easy to get off track. So how do we stay focused? How do we stay on track with Jesus? We believe here at Union City that discipleship happens daily and in community. That's what discipleship is. It's going to be a daily commitment. It's going to be done in community. So a couple things that we're really excited. Today is like half sermon, half presentation. And so I want to kind of get practical for a second and talk about a few things that we're going to be doing together as a church. And the first of which is our men's ministry. Let me hear from the men real quick. Come on, somebody. We have some men's gatherings that have been really organic over the last 7 or 8 months. And we've had a Bible study that's been meeting in Navy Yard on Tuesday mornings, and then we've had a Bible study meeting in Nova on Wednesday mornings. They're kind of alternating on weeks, and it's just been incredible to see what God is doing, who he's bringing in, and it's, again, been organic. Like, we just having conversations, hey, jump and come to this. But we want to take our men's ministry and build it into an actual ministry within our church, something that you can get information about, that you can find on our website. And so we want to bolster our men's ministry, and we want to begin to build out more Bible studies in the morning, some Bible studies that can meet in the evening for the guys that can't make it in the morning because of work, or just like you can't get out of bed. I don't know who you are, but if you can't make it in the morning, I'd love to at least have you have an opportunity at your disposal. We're also with our men going to be gathering several times throughout the year, just some men's hangouts. We got to do one of these in July at a guy in our church named Ignacio at his house, and we had over 40 guys that showed up to gather together. And then the last thing that we're going to be doing also is I am planning our first men's retreat. And so we're going to be doing an overnight together. We're going to hang out, pray together. We're going to eat raw steak. We're going to wrestle bears. It's going to get crazy, and we're not going to wrestle bears. Do I look like somebody that wrestles bears? I'm not. But here's what I know. I know that the church needs strong men. It also needs strong women, which we'll talk about in a second. But the church needs strong men. And it needs men who love Jesus and men who have great integrity. And that's what we want to begin to build, is that there will become men in our church that know what it looks like to pursue Christ. Men that can say, hey, follow me as I follow Christ, as Paul said. So I'm so excited for this. I also want to invite my wife up. She's going to talk a little bit about another endeavor, so give her a huge hand for a moment.
I said in first service that we need to cue Shania Twain, let's go, girls. I just feel like I need to hear that right now. No, but I'm so excited as we have been really praying and talking about 2023 for our church. Something that has been in my heart for a very long time, years really, is to start a women's ministry. And I am just so excited that in 2023 we will be officially launching the Union City Sisterhood.
Come on.
And it's going to be incredible. You know, as we were preparing to launch Union City Church, one thing that was just on my heart so much was this expression of women's ministry for the women of our house, gathering together, being encouraged. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, I really wrestled with this for a while. I wanted to see this happen, but I couldn't quite wrap my arms around what this could look like. I prayed for a vision. I asked for the Lord to give me clarity on, how does this manifest itself within our church? How do we make this thing happen? And honestly, guys, for months, I really struggled to figure out what this could look like, what this could be. Very recently, I feel like the Lord has just poured out so much vision, so much just energy around this idea of the Union City Sisterhood. And I'm so excited to share that in the spring of this new year, we will be having our first sisterhood gathering, and it's going to be incredible. I'm just so expectant for what it could be, to see the women of this house come together, to be encouraged, to grow in community and in faith, and to watch what God can do through a sisterhood that is ignited through faith and mutual love for one another. And so I really quickly just want to share the 5 core values of the Union City Sisterhood, really to speak this in faith before we even gather for the first time. So like any good preacher would, these are all alliteration. They begin with S. Really worked hard on that one. But the sisterhood it's secure, steadfast, surrendered, sincere, and sound. And let me tell you what I mean by those. We're secure. We know who we are. How many of you know as women, sometimes we wrestle with security, with feeling insecure, with not knowing who we are. But as the Union City Sisterhood, we know who we are, but most importantly, we know who we are in Christ. That is the source and the genesis of our identity. We are steadfast. We are marked by faithfulness and an unwavering commitment to the kingdom. This world will offer us a lot of things on a silver platter, but we are steadfast in our pursuit of Christ. We understand this life is not a sprint, it is a marathon, and we're in it for the long haul. We're surrendered. We live in the freedom of knowing that our lives are not our own. We surrender everything about who we are to the lordship of Jesus. We're sincere. I love this one. You know, as girls, sometimes it's easy to feel like you need to put on a certain type of outfit and look a certain way and act a certain way to make everyone think that you're good and you've got it all together. I don't want to be like that. I want this to be real and authentic and raw. We are sincere. We're not putting on a show. Our commitment to our faith and to one another is authentic. And the way that we love is the real deal. And we're sound. We are whole soul women. And we're committed to the pursuit of mental, physical, relational, and most importantly, spiritual health. I'm so excited for what God is going to do through this sisterhood. I really believe that as women, we have this ability to be the tone setters within an organization, within a community. And I think as the women of this house get awakened with purpose, with faith, and with sisterhood, I just think we're going to see God move in such a powerful way. So this spring, we're going to gather. It's going to be amazing. And I will play Shania Twain. It's going to happen. So...
Oh, yeah. Hang on here for a second. And I was saying this last service, too. I didn't know she had core values. I'm like, we're going to have core values, too, guys. We'll meet after service and figure it out. It's just the difference of us. Like, I'm such a feeler. I just feel it out. She's, like, got everything perfectly planned for, like, the next 7 years.
This is our personalities on display.
Yeah. I'm 7 minutes ahead. She's a good 7 years out. So, but anyway, never mind. Okay, so, hey, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to kind of move through this quickly. And please know, anything that we talk about today, so many more details to come. So we're not trying to wear the burden and pressure of, like, giving you every detail right now. But another thing that we're doing in line with discipleship and formation is what we're calling this year practicing the way groups. You know, one of the questions we get asked a lot from people is, hey, I love being in community. I love going to dinner parties and things like that. But is there anything that I could be a part of that could really strengthen and bolster my faith? You know, where could I be discipled? And so now our answer has been, hey, you know what? Get in community groups or maybe come join one of our guys' Bible studies. Now our answer is going to be, hey, you need to join a Practicing the Way group. And these are going to be awesome. This has been pioneered by a guy named John Mark Comer. He's a pastor. And he has really influenced my life in a tremendous way over the past 3 years, both from a distance and up close. And I love what they've put together. So we have a video resource. We're still going to watch these together in community, and then we're going to walk these things out together in community. But the resource is actually incredible. We've been watching some of it, and it is so well done. And I think that we're going to be captivated by what they're teaching. What I love about the values and the mission of Practicing the Way is basically it's threefold. What they're looking for is they want us to be with Jesus, to become like Jesus, and to do what Jesus did. And I think one of the issues that we have right now in our modern faith is that we have a lot of Christians who want to be like Jesus, but they never spend time with Jesus and they never do what Jesus did. So this is going to become a really incredible approach for us to have a robust discipleship where we're going to walk this stuff out together. Because again, discipleship happens daily and in community. And so I'm really excited about it. I know you wanted to share a little bit as well.
Yeah, and what this is going to look like is we're going to be gathering. We'll be watching the video content that they have put together. And I can just tell you this is excellent, well-produced content that honestly stands next to all the amazing content the world puts out there and is just as excellent. And so we're going to watch the videos. The videos will walk you through the spiritual disciplines. There are 8 different modules that they have prepared from things like fasting and prayer and Sabbath and different spiritual disciplines. Each module is about 4 weeks long. So you're going to take a deep dive into the disciplines. You're going to learn the nuances, the scriptural background and basis for it. And what I love so much about this program that's been put together is they have the content for you, but then they give you small groups to walk it out with and then practices every single week to implement. The whole theory and the ethos behind this is you can listen to a good sermon and a good teaching all day long, but unless and until you actually take that and put it into practice and do something with it, it's not transforming your life. And so this is a really great way to just grab hold of something and immediately put it into practice in your life. And it's a great way if you're looking for what Brandon's talking about, this concept of formation. You know, this isn't going to be for everyone. This will stretch you. This will ask a lot of you, but it will grow you in your faith. And we're just so excited to see what God's going to do through our community as we walk through these disciplines together and grow in them as a church.
Absolutely. So we're excited for it. Would you guys give Delaney one more big hand? All right, I'm going to keep moving, so let's go. So that's a little bit about who we're going to be in 2023. Now I want to talk for just a couple moments about what we're going to do. What do we want to do together as a church? What are we trying to accomplish this year coming up? One of our values, one of our pillars, if those will go back up, is missional living. And that's a huge thing that we want to kind of focus on also in this next year. Now, I was thinking about our city, so thinking about DC, and people live here for all kinds of different reasons. So I want you to think for a quick moment, why is it that you live in this city or near this city? There's a lot of people that, you move here for work or you move here for school or you got positioned here, stationed here. This is the internship that popped up. So as you're here in DC, I don't know if you love this city, if you're like, I love Washington, D.C. and everything about it. I love parking tickets, and I love the hustle and bustle and all this stuff, right? They've gotten us so good. Or if you're somebody that tolerates the city, it's just like, it's fine, it's decent. Or if you're somebody that kind of hates it, you're like, honestly, I have an internship or I have this position here that when this is over, like, I'm out of here. But let me just say this, whatever your stance is on the city, whatever your opinion of the city and how you view your being here right now, one of the things that we want to invite you into, we want to invite all of you to embrace the city. So whatever it looks like, you love it, you hate it, or you're somewhere in between, we want to invite you to embrace the city. And what I mean by that is I want all of us to be people who will pray for and will work for the prosperity of this city for as long as we're here. And so you might feel like a tree and your roots are going deep, like God has planted you here. Or you might feel a little bit more like a potted plant. Like I'm just sitting here until God takes me where he really wants to put me. But can I just challenge you? If you're sitting in this city as a potted plant, go ahead and jump out of that pot, put your roots down deep, and just say, hey, if I'm here 3 months, I'm going to go as deep as I can and love this city as best as I can. If you're here 3 years, love it as best as you can, get in community. I'm trying to tell people, if you are kind of transitioning through this city, I want when you leave and you say your goodbye, I want that to hurt a little bit because what that will mean is that you did the hard work to make intentional connections. Too many people show up and go, I'm not here very long, so I'm not going to do much. I won't contribute. I don't want to meet people, and I think that's the wrong way to live. I want us to dive in, and then those of you who are here 30 years, we want to build with you. We want to grow with you and alongside of you. But here's the deal. No matter what it looks like for you, guys, we are called to be makers of peace and creators of prosperity in the places that God places us. I love this in Jeremiah 29:7. And this is as Israel is being taken to the city of Babylon, a pagan city that they know nothing about. And God says this through the prophet. He says, also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. So he said, hey, in this pagan city that, for a lot of these people, a place they weren't going to like a whole lot, God said, I still want you to seek peace for the city, and I still want you to seek its prosperity. And then he tells them, hey, just remember this. If the city succeeds, you succeed. If it prospers, you will prosper. And I think more believers need to have this kind of perspective. And so here at Union City, guys, we want to be people who live on mission. That every single day we're thinking, hey, God, how can we be a part of the things that you're doing in our city? How can we meet not just the spiritual needs, but how can we meet the physical and tangible needs of our city? Because we recognize that sometimes people's ears will not be open to hear the gospel until we meet some of their physical needs. So we want to show up to the hard places, to the difficult spaces. And so whether you chose DC or you feel kind of like Israel and you've been carried here in exile, we still want you to catch this vision of renewal and say, I'm going to be part of the spiritual and physical renewal of this city. You're here for a reason. So what we're going to do, one thing before 2023 that I wanted to kind of go back to for a second was our annual Thanksgiving outreach that they talked about. So I won't belabor this point. But as this comes, I want to remind you guys as our church that things like this are a really big deal. And these are ways that we are able to get our foot in the door and begin to make connections with the public school system. As they also talked about, the Washington Police Department is going to be a part of this as well, the DC Police Department. We have other organizations that as we show up and say, hey, here's 75 or 100 meals that we want you guys to be able to give to people in need. These make really strong connections and begin to break down some of the barriers that people have built up about the church. So this is coming up. We'd love to continue receiving donations if you guys are willing to jump on board. And then on November 19th, that Saturday, we're going to show up and we're going to have our packing party. And it's going to be a party. And we're going to be playing Christmas music already. And so if you're opposed to that, I'm sorry. But Christmas at Union City starts in mid-November. So we love Thanksgiving. We value it, but it's Christmas season, everybody. So hey, now I want to move into 2023. I want to talk about a couple of quick things. We're going to have 3 all-church serve days in 2023. And so we are really excited about serving together in the spring and the summer, and then we will come back again in the fall for our third annual Thanksgiving outreach. And again, what an incredible way to be the hands and feet of Jesus in our city. Another thing we're going to be doing is continuing our outreach partnerships. And so we have someone here on our lead team at Union City. Her name's Felicia Herrera. She's in the back. Wave at us, Felicia. And she works so unbelievably hard to get connected and stay connected with organizations right here in our city that we can partner with. And some of them are Christian organizations, and some of them are not. So she's looking for people that we can align with, people that are doing things that we really believe in and think are solving problems right here in our city. And I think for us as a church, one thing that I just feel so clear on that we have a call from God is not to start a bunch of our own nonprofits, not to say we maybe never would start something, but to look at the people who are already doing it well and pray about how we can strategically partner with them. Hey, God's given you a vision to solve this problem. How can we be hands and feet to help you with that? How can we fund and fuel your mission? And so that's a great thing that we're a part of. And then with that, we're also pledging to continue our practice as a church of tithing. And what I mean by that is our church, as Union City, we have a practice of tithing. And so 10% of our yearly budget, we have committed to making sure that at minimum, this is a budget floor, at minimum every single year, 10% of our budget is going to go outside of these walls to outreach, to global missions, to helping other church plants, and we want to continue to keep that going this year. That's where so much of our $55,000 that we gave away came from in this past year. And so as we invite you to give, as I said earlier, we want to continue to be a generous church. And with this, guys, my hope and prayer is that 10% just grows every single year. And that eventually, I'm telling you, God has given us a vision that we would be a church that as we grow and as we go, that we can be giving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars back into our city every single year to help solve the problems that we're surrounded by. And so we want to do this together as a church. We want to continue to help right here around the nation and around the globe. And so what I was going to say too is, there have been a lot of organizations that have come to us and have said, hey, could Union City partner with us? Could they help us with this particular endeavor or initiative or this problem? And there's been a number of times that we've been able to say yes. And we've been able to say, hey, here's a $2,000 check, here's $5,000, here's $3,500 that we've been able to help. And that comes from the consistent giving of our church, where we don't have to get on this stage every time and say, hey, we need to raise more money. And so the first thing I want to say with that is thank you to anybody who's already given and who's consistently giving. We are able to meet needs in our city because of that. However, there have been moments as a church where people have come to us and said, hey, could you help us with this need? And we've had to say no, because we don't have the funds for that. And my heart is to get to the point where we are financially equipped enough to where we can meet every need when the need arises in our city. And so I want to invite you guys into further participation and further giving within our church. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about here with us today is where we're going to go. Where we're going to go. And we're excited to announce this year, coming up in 2023, a brand new partnership with Mercy Kids Africa and the Lusungu Children's Home. And we can put our hands together. You may not know why yet, but it's going to be a really amazing opportunity for us. And so this is in Chingola, Zambia. And the reason that this came about is there's a guy here in our church named Tim Torres, and he is actually the chairman of Mercy Kids Africa. And he'll actually be up here in a couple of weeks to share so much more about what this looks like and what they're doing on the ground in Zambia. But Lusungu Children's Home is a transit orphanage. And basically what that looks like is right now, there are 40 kids at this orphanage who came initially to be there part-time, but are now there full-time because the government and social workers cannot find any next of kin. So they have no parents, they have no living relatives. So 40 of these kids are here at this orphanage all year long permanently. And the orphanage can swell at times to about 100 kids at a time. So what we want to do is we want to come in, and we're not there to try to take this orphanage over. We're not there to try to give all of our best ideas and practices. They have amazing, capable people on the ground, local pastors, people that are from the area that know what's best for that community. We want to come in, and we want to be people that say, hey, we can be extra hands and feet, and we can help to fund the mission that God has given you here in this space. So our financial support is going to be used primarily for meals, housing, and education. Also, our funding is going to support local enterprise. So this is going to help to further increase income and in the orphanage and in the community, which is something that we're really, really excited about. Tim was talking about things that are going to be a part of this enterprise, like agriculture, raising livestock, trade school scholarships. I think this is one of the best things that as we give, they're going to be formulating scholarships to give. We're hoping that every single kid in this orphanage can get a scholarship over the course of the next few years. But for $2,000, they can scholarship a child to learn and develop, to learn a trade and develop a skill so that they can support themselves and a future family at some point in the future, which I think is incredible. They're also providing microfinancing in the community, and they're also hoping to build a fishery. This is something brand new that's coming soon. And so this year, what we're wanting to do is partner in funding the purchasing of a lot of the much-needed goods for the community, as well as helping pay for the shipping of those goods across the ocean to get those overseas. And we're also planning on raising as much money as we possibly can to help them build out this fishery. This is a $45,000 endeavor, just the fishery alone. And so we don't know if we'll do all of it, but we're going to do everything we can to help make this a reality. I'm excited about the fishery. Because this is something that I think would become a sustainable and renewal food source and income generator for their community. And so what an amazing thing to be a part of. The last thing with this is we're also really excited to announce that in the fall of 2023, we're going to be taking a trip to Zambia. And so we want to invite our church and get people plugged in and involved. Some of you that give, you're going to be able to go and see where your money is going to, what it's helping, who it's helping. And also, we want to bring people out that might want to come see this to learn a little bit more about how they can become more involved and get more plugged in and even be a bigger part of the financial giving toward the group. So if you are interested, we'll talk about this a lot over the coming weeks and months. But even today, we've got a text thread. If you want to text Zambia to 94000, you'll be on our list to begin to receive information about interest gatherings and things of that nature for our trip. And then lastly, I told you I had a bonus point at the end. The last thing I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about is how we're going to dream. How we're going to dream together as a church. You know, one of our core values at Union City is audacity. And this means that we have big faith. is one of the things we love to say is that we do not want to insult God with small thinking and safe living. But we want to be people who dream big because our God is big. And people who don't live safe but are willing to live and walk in faith and not by sight. So one of the things that we're praying about is, and we're praying audaciously for, and not just in 2023, but I think beyond for the next several years, is for a permanent location for us to gather in as Union City Church. So we're praying, we're dreaming, we're planning, and the crazy thing is I feel like God is already bringing people strategically into our church. I just had a conversation 2 nights ago with somebody that I feel like God is beginning to bring in that are helping to kind of reveal and open our eyes to some opportunities that might be in front of us in the coming years. Guys, we want a place for Union City to call home, and we want to become a permanent fixture in our city. We want to be a place that can function as a refuge in this city. And so that's going to take a lot of things, and I believe that this can happen in so many different ways. I'm not going to put God into any kind of box and say, God, this is the building that I need, or this is exactly how you need to go about it. We're going to give God freedom to do this however he sees fit. And so if this is God saying, hey, you know what, we're going to give you guys a larger building that you could start meeting in on Sundays where we could gather for worship. I mean, that would be incredible. It also might be something a little different. It might be that we find space, a smaller venue within the city that can kind of begin to act as our headquarters and our ministry hub right here in the city. That all throughout the week, it wouldn't just be Union City on Sunday, but all throughout the week, that we could have a space and a place where we could start doing our first Union City youth gatherings, where we could host our men's and women's events featuring Shania Twain. We could have our marriage events, our team nights, worship nights, discipleship groups, small weddings. I feel like one thing God put on my heart is to build a beautiful space that people can have weddings in on a budget. Come on, somebody. And so we could create a great venue that could serve our church. Like, don't go spend 30 grand. Like, come over here, do it here, you know? We could hold funerals at a space like this. Office space, prayer room, counseling, you name it. This will become a space that the people of our church could run to all throughout the week to find hope, to find healing. But also could be the space that we do ministry out of every single day. And we believe that God is faithful. And in a city where buildings are expensive and houses are expensive and your basement apartment rental is expensive, everything's expensive, we believe that God can do it. We believe that God can do a miracle and provide a space. So I'm praying all the time, like, God, just give us a building, but also I want to prep for, like, if he doesn't, you know? And so we want to begin to save. And one of the things that I can say that I love is even in the last year, as we've been doing a lot of ministry here, a lot of the upfront costs of starting a church, giving away $55,000, we still have been able to save a relatively substantial amount of money. Now, it's not enough. If somebody said, hey, here's a building, I'm not like, we got it. So we want to continue to save. We want to continue to bolster our savings. And so some of what we want to do with our money this year and in 2023 is to continue to set aside funds so that the day that God brings an opportunity our way, we can pull the trigger and say, yes, we can do it because we've already been giving faithfully. And that's what we want to do here at our church. And so, man, I don't know about all of this. I hope it gets you excited. I hope it kind of lights a fire inside of you, all the endeavors, all of the initiatives, all of the partnerships, and even the prospect of a future space for our church. But I wanted to close by saying this. All of this requires all of us. Requires us to give of our time, our efforts, our talents, what so many of you are already doing every single Sunday. But these kind of endeavors also require us to give of our finances. It requires people that step in and say, hey, I'll sacrifice. I will give. I will be a part of what God is doing. And so I'm excited to announce that our first annual end-of-year offering is coming up on December 4th, and we can clap for that. I know you might be thinking, like, I don't know if I want to clap for that, but I'm just already believing in faith that God is already stirring. He's already moving, and we're believing that in our church, and we're also going to use the power of social media, and we're going to ask other people to be a part of this, but we're believing that we can come together and that we can raise something substantial so that we can finish this year well and we can start 2023 strong. Guys, we have a lot we want to do. And I heard somebody say one time that vision moves at the speed of generosity. So we got a big vision And we want this thing to go, and we want it to grow, but it's going to go and it's going to grow at the pace in which we give. And so we want to invite our church into sacrificial giving on December 4th to say, hey, let's bolster our finances, and let's start 2023 strong, and let's already be ready and equipped to begin to give in our city and to give around the world and to save for what God is going to do here in our church. You know, there are people in our church that on December 4th, and I do want to say this too, that we will extend the ability to give into the month of January. If you need more time or if you're not here, part of why we're doing it on the 4th is that a lot of our college students start to go home after that week, and we want the entire church to be able to be a part of this. There's people in our church that on an offering like that can give thousands, some that can give hundreds, and there's other people that $25 legitimately would be a major sacrifice. But I just want to say this, that the goal in giving is not equal amount, but rather equal sacrifice. So I'm not asking you to try to give as much as someone else. All I'm asking you to do and to think about and pray about is, would you be willing to sacrifice at the same level as many of the other people in our church are going to sacrifice? That's what it's going to take in our church. And I look around, and we have a very young church. I don't know if you've noticed that. And I saw some stats recently that said that baby boomers, they make up 65% of the giving that exists within the American church today. So the baby boomers are kind of the heavy hitters. You know, when they walk into church, they're more established, and we're living in increasingly expensive times in a different world. I understand. But with the younger church, what that means is we cannot rely on 2 or 3 people that say, yo, hey, Brent, I'll come in and I'll drop the $50,000 check. I'll drop the $10,000. What that means is that all of us together just simply say, hey, God, we'll give what we can give. And if all of us do that together, I believe there's so much power in what we can do and what we can raise. So get creative. I don't know what it looks like for you. It might be fasting lattes and drinking coffee at home for 5 weeks and just seeing like, that's $1,000 right there, essentially, you know? You know, for me, I got this. This is very practical. I got an app on my phone a couple of years ago. And the app is called Acorns, and it rounds all of my purchases up to $1. So if it's 2 cents or if it's 99 cents, every purchase I make on our debit card, it rounds it up and it takes that money and it puts it into savings and invests it. And what's so awesome is just to watch how quickly this can actually grow. And so I've been doing this over the last 4 or 5 months, saving just for this offering. And so I'm prepared a week out to pull that money out and give it. My wife and I are also going to do hopefully something even more substantial than that. And I say that because I am not going to ask you to do something that we're not going to do. Right? I have 3 kids and just bought a home. It is tempting right now to buy a comfier chair than to give in this offering, right? To save for my kids' college, which we're trying to do. But also I know that, I want to be a pastor that takes the first step and says, hey, we've got a God that's already given to us. I want to give, and I want to invite our church to be a part of this. If you've got crypto in stock, which you may not, crypto's been doing great lately. If you want to fast from shopping and buying things that you may not need in this season, selling clothes or items you don't use, canceling some subscriptions that you are not using or aware of. That's probably $20,000 represented in this room right there, right? You're paying for stuff. You got to mooch off other people's accounts. All right, that's the best way. I'm kidding. Don't put that online. Hey, if you guys will, let's stand to our feet. And I want to begin, I'm going to close here. I've had 3 closings, if you can't tell. It's just to keep you here. But basically, I just want us to begin to plan and prep and pray. God, what would you have me do on December 4th? Or what would you have me do as I, maybe you want to extend your giving throughout into the new year? I'll say it like this. I won't ever try to tell you what to give. But I will tell you to ask God and allow God to tell you what to give. And I can confidently say this, and you may not like that I'm saying this, but I'm just going to say it if I can pastor you for a second. I am confident if Union City Church is your home, what I am confident of is that number is not 0. I know that for a fact. We have a generous God who established his church in a way that we don't have outside funding and government funding. The church funds itself. We're here and have what we have because people give. And I want all of us to look at this and just say, okay, I'm not going to be coerced and compelled into giving. The Bible actually says if you feel coerced to give, then don't. He says, I want you to give with a joyful heart. I don't want you to feel compelled. I want you to feel a sense of joy. It says, God, I get to be a part of advancing your kingdom in an important city like Washington, D.C. Let me close by saying this last story. There's a story of a guy named Robert Louis Stevenson, and he's a famous Scottish novelist. He wrote the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What's it called? The Strange Story of I shut my iPad and I shouldn't have. It's called something like that. Treasure Island, things like that. When he was a kid, his mother told this story that one day he was looking out his window in the 1800s before electricity. And as he's staring out his window, he's just enraptured by something that he's seeing. And so his mom went over to him and she said, Robert, what are you looking at? And as she was asking the question, she looked out the window and there were a couple of lamplighters who were outside and they were lighting the city lamps, all the street lights. They didn't just come on in the 1800s. People had to climb ladders, open up a box, light the flame, close the box, and climb back down and keep going. So she asks the question, and she sees these lamplighters, and she always talked about how her young son responded in this moment because it's actually kind of profound. And he said, Mom, I'm watching men punch holes in the darkness. And I love this visual. Because as a church, what did Jesus tell us? What did he call us? He said, you are the light of the world. And we are called to be people that with our deeds and our actions, what we give and what we do, we are called to punch holes in the darkness. Every deed you do, every work that you do, people are able to see it and glorify our Father in heaven. So I want you to know every dollar you give into this church, you're punching holes in the darkness. Every day you show up to serve, every home that opens up for a dinner party, every time that you come to a discipleship group, you are punching holes in the darkness. You know, our logo at Union City, if they want to put this on the screen, is a lantern. And this is intentional. We don't just think lanterns are cool. We want you to know that everywhere you go, you are the light of the world. And you have the ability to carry this light everywhere you go and punch holes in the darkness. At your university, in your workplace. If you're working online, guess what? You can still punch holes in the darkness in that environment. Wherever you might be going, let's carry light everywhere that we go. If you guys would, let's extend our hands, open our hands in prayer. And I just want to pray for us and believe that God is going to begin to stir in our church and that the rest of this year we're going to finish well and that we are going to start 2023 strong and with the wind of the Holy Spirit at our backs. Heavenly Father, we just ask right now that you would stir not just us collectively, but would you stir us individually right now? Holy Spirit, show us how we can be involved, how we can be people who don't just show up to do church, to attend church, but we are your church, where we want to embody that every single day of our lives. Help us to be people that see our task as working in full-time ministry, God, that we are living on mission, that we are ministers to bring help and healing everywhere that we go. God, begin to stir in us this sense and this gift of generosity. I pray that we would be people over these next 5 weeks that would be looking for ways to save, looking for ways to bring our finances together. And God, we pray that you would do a miracle. Help us, all these initiatives that we just laid out, Lord. I pray that the giving is so substantial that we can meet these needs before the year even starts. So we love you, God. Thank you for what you've done in this church. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for what you're going to continue to do. All praise, all glory, and honor to you. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.